Athar, give us your perspective. You guys have put together such an extensive report on the whole...
difficult to read that much. No, so, look, each country will follow its own path of why they need semiconductor as an industry. And it's very important that as we think a vision for our own country, we should be very clear on what we are trying to build when you talk about a stack. For example, you know, this industry is one of the most complex industry.
Yeah.
This is an industry which is highly capital intensive. So if, for example, the choice of node determines how much capital we are going to put in. So let's say India has been smart around thinking about 28 nanometer nodes. They have not tried to attract sub 10 or sub 20 node because, for example, you are talking about $20 billion excess of money if you're sub 20 nanometer. That's the kind of capital intensity you need. So the step one, for example, as we think about ecosystem, India's semiconductor industry has a large demand coming from its electronics industry, and these two industries have a strong adjacencies. India's semiconductor industry has a very large demand coming from automobile industry, especially now EVs coming in. And India's semiconductor industry will have a very strong demand coming from possibly the whole 5G, 6G focus, that is the telecom industry, and even the healthcare focus or the medical devices that we look into. So that's the step one of thinking about the right choice of fabs or OSATs that we have been thinking about. I think the second step is, as we think about the large industry, India, where is India's competitive advantage? India's competitive advantage lies in that globally 20 to 25% of the design talent for the world is in India around Bangalore. Now, if those people want to have entrepreneurial journey, people who have worked for Intel and Qualcomm and see this as a great opportunity to move out of big brands and start setting up their own design startups for fabless stuff, for RISC-V platform, and there are many other platforms, whether for AI or IoTs they put in. What is the ecosystem the government and policy makers are making, which differentiates the new startups that are coming in, trying to attempt some of this? The DLI does a bit of that, which is the design linked incentive under the larger semiconductor. Can we take a leadership around this to say we have become a leader in this whole design ecosystem that's coming in, and we are promoting some of the startups. Some of these startups will eventually. The second question is, I was in Bangalore on a semicon meet of stakeholders. What is good really about this journey of India's semiconductor is that the government and private sector is working very closely, actively. So we are having a lot of 6 monthly, quarterly sessions on. Now, one of the startup guys said, how many of you will trust me? So right now, even in this play of ASML versus a new startup, whom will you go with? And that's where some kind of assurance and, for these startups to have some bit of certainty on their demand is clearly needed. And the last bit on your first question, I would say is, India needs to start thinking about a bit of a vertical specialization on things they want to do. So, for example, would we be known for, let's say, a lot of focus on auto chips and auto design? Will we be focused for, let's say, electronics industry use cases, or whether we will be on EVs, industrial IoT, whatever? So I think a bit of that focus, there's a lot to be done. It's an extremely competitive industry, and hence that's how the journey for India could be differentiated, and accordingly a bit of policy actions as well as investments actions could be taken.